The first story, A Room Without Windows. Jessica, a young woman, decided to spend a weekend away from the hustle and bustle of the city and embarked on a road trip. In the evening, tired from the long drive and exhausting journey, she stumbled upon an old yet cozy hotel called Quiet Corner. The place attracted her with its mystery and tranquility, as it was located far from busy roads and city noise. Worn out from driving and wanting to rest a bit, Jessica decided to stay there for the night. Jessica entered her room and noticed that there were no windows. The room was cozy but dark, and this made her feel slightly uneasy. The walls were adorned with dark wood, and the air was filled with the scent of age. She decided not to dwell on it, thinking that it would be better for sleeping. Well, at least it will be quiet and dark, she thought, settling into bed. That night, already on the verge of sleep, Jessica was awakened by strange sounds. She heard quiet footsteps and whispers coming from the walls, which seemed too close to be just her imagination. She tried to ignore them, convinced that it was just the old building creaking in the wind. It's just an old house. Nothing to worry about, she repeated to herself. But the unease lingered. In the morning, Jessica felt uncomfortable, but decided she needed to relax and forget about the sounds. She quickly took a shower and went downstairs to the hotel cafe for breakfast. The next day, Jessica discovered that her room door was locked from the inside. She couldn't get it open. Panic set in and she called for help, but no one responded. With each attempt to open the door, her fear grew. Suddenly, she noticed that strange changes were occurring in the room. The furniture seemed to move, and the floor felt uneven, as if the room itself was altering its shape. Someone locked the door. But who and why? She wondered, not understanding what was happening. That night, the sounds grew louder. Jessica once again heard whispers, but now they were right next to her bed. She got up and inspected the room, but found no one. Suddenly, a shadow of a person appeared on the wall. Jessica froze in fear as the shadow began to move. "Who's there? What do you want from me?" she shouted, but no one answered. Trying to cope with her fear, Jessica began to search for a way to escape the room. She discovered a secret passage behind the wardrobe and, without thinking, decided to explore it. The passage led her to an abandoned wing of the hotel, where she found old photographs and documents revealing the tragic events that had occurred there. "This place, it's full of horrors, but why am I here?" she whispered, leafing through the yellowed pages. She read about how several guests had gone missing, and their disappearances were linked to rituals conducted in this hotel. Suddenly, it struck her that the room without windows was not just a strange architectural feature, it was a trap. They used these rooms for their rituals. I must get out of here. Gathering her courage, Jessica returned to her room. She tried to dismantle the wardrobe to find another exit. Suddenly, the light went out, and she heard a sinister voice whispering her name. "Jessica, you're next." The voice was low and threatening. In the darkness, she groped for the exit and ran down the corridor, where an eerie silence now reigned. She heard footsteps and whispers behind her, and her fear intensified. Jessica reached a door that led to the basement and realized it was her only chance for escape. "I have to go down. Maybe there's a way out," she thought, feeling cold gripping her body. In the basement, she found an altar covered in bloodstains and ancient symbols. Suddenly, she understood that the spirits of those who had died here were haunting her. Jessica began searching for a way out, but the corridors became increasingly convoluted. The walls seemed to close in on her, and the sound of her heartbeat grew louder. "It's a labyrinth. They want me to stay here forever." She noticed a door leading to another room and, without thinking, opened it. Inside stood an old woman with a vacant stare, holding a photo depicting the victims of the hotel. The woman looked at Jessica, and in her eyes, Jessica saw the reflection of her own panic. "Help me. I can't leave," the old woman whispered. Jessica realized she needed to help this woman to find a way to escape. She recalled the diaries and began asking questions, trying to find out how to free her spirit. But the more she asked, the more horrific memories surfaced in her mind. "I have to find a way out. I have to save her and myself. She discovered an old staircase leading to a hatch on the roof. Climbing it, she emerged onto the hotel roof and saw the light of the morning sun breaking through the clouds. The spirits released her, and she could breathe a sigh of relief. I did it. I got out. Descending from the roof, Jessica made her way to the hotel exit. But along the way, she encountered the doorman again, who looked at her with surprise and fear. You managed to get out. It's impossible, he uttered as if not believing his eyes. Jessica didn't explain anything and simply ran to her car. She drove away, promising herself never to stop at strange hotels again. Her story became a legend, and the Quiet Corner Hotel was soon closed due to numerous complaints about strange noises and disappearances. Never again, she whispered, leaving that sinister place. Later, Jessica learned that the hotel had been demolished and a new one built in its place. But the spirits seemed not to have left forever, and new guests continued to hear strange sounds and whispers as soon as the night's calm enveloped the hotel. These spirits, they will never leave this place, Jessica thought, glancing back at the hotel one last time. The second story of the ghost in the room. On a warm summer evening, John and Emma, a young couple, decided to spend the weekend away from the hustle and bustle of the city. They chose an old hotel on the outskirts of town known for its atmosphere and rich history. Upon checking in, they were charmed by its antique architecture and cozy ambiance. The first evening passed peacefully. John and Emma unpacked, walked around their room, and noted the antique furniture and old-fashioned decor. They paid particular attention to a large mirror in the corner of the room, which seemed unusually ancient. After dinner at the hotel restaurant, they returned to their room and went to sleep. Emma noticed a small stain on the wall, but decided to ignore it. Look, John, this place is so cozy. Yes, it really is. I hope we'll be comfortable here. That night, Emma woke up to a strange noise. She heard a faint creak and a light rustle. At first, she thought it was just the old hotel, but the noises continued. John, do you hear that? It's just the old hotel, Emma. Go back to sleep. The following night, the noises grew louder. Emma woke up again and noticed that objects in the room were moving on their own. A lamp on the bedside table fell over for no apparent reason, and the window opened by itself. Emma began to panic. John, this isn't normal. Something's wrong here. Maybe it's just a draft or old pipes. The next day, they spoke with the hotel maid, who reluctantly revealed that a murder had taken place in that room years ago. Do you know what happened here? Years ago, a young woman was killed in this room. Since then, people have reported strange occurrences. That evening, returning to their room, John and Emma noticed that the stain on the wall had grown larger and more vivid. It looked like fresh blood. Emma felt increasingly uncomfortable and decided to spend the night in another room, but the hotel receptionist said all the other rooms were occupied. It seems like this stain is growing. We just need to calm down. We'll leave tomorrow. That night, they heard noises again, this time louder and clearer. Emma felt someone watching them. She saw the reflection of a woman standing by their bed in the mirror, but when she turned around, no one was there. John, I saw someone in the mirror. You're just tired, Emma. Go back to sleep. On the third night, the situation became unbearable. John and Emma heard loud screams and banging, as if someone was desperately trying to escape the room. The door to their room slammed shut, trapping them inside. Emma saw the ghost of a woman crying and begging for their help. We need to get out of here. John, the door won't open. They tried to open the door, but it was locked. The ghost began to tell her story, explaining that she had been murdered in that room years ago and could not find peace. I was killed here. My murderer was never caught. Help me. John and Emma tried to contact the receptionist, but the phone didn't work. In desperation, they searched for another way out and found an old diary hidden in the wardrobe. The diary described the horrific events that had taken place in that room. They realized the ghost of the woman couldn't move on because of unsaid words and injustice. John, it says here she was killed because she found out something important. We need to help her find peace. Suddenly, the lights began to flicker, and the temperature in the room dropped sharply. John found a heavy object and broke the window so they could escape. They ran through the hotel at night, their hearts pounding. Finally, they ran outside and called the police. "We need to do something. Let's just leave." The third story, the final call. Jack, a weary traveler, was searching for a place to stay after a long trip. He stumbled upon an old yet well-maintained hotel called Eternal Rest. Tired and in need of rest, he decided to stay there for the night. In his room, Jack made himself comfortable, but a feeling of unease lingered. He looked around and noticed an antique phone on the nightstand that seemed out of place in the modern era. What a strange atmosphere. I hope it's quiet here. That night, Jack was awakened by the phone ringing. Remembering the concierge's warning, he tried to ignore it, but the ringing grew more insistent. Eventually, he picked up the receiver and heard a faint voice pleading for help. "Help me. Please, help me." After the call, Jack found himself in the same room, but the surroundings had changed. The room smelled musty and moldy, and the furniture looked old and decayed. He realized he had somehow traveled back in time. Where am I? How did I get here? Jack left the room and saw the ghosts of people who once inhabited the hotel. He witnessed scenes from the past when the hotel was bustling with life. But soon he saw horrific events, fights, arguments, and even murders that took place in this hotel. This can't be real, it must be a dream. Each night, the phone call would transport Jack back in time, and each time he would witness increasingly horrifying events. He learned that the hotel was cursed after a series of tragic deaths, and its inhabitants were trapped between worlds. These people, they can't leave this place. Jack decided that the only way to stop the horrors was to find the source of the curse. He began searching for information about the tragedies that occurred in the hotel. In one room, he found a diary belonging to a woman who had died there many years ago. This diary, maybe it holds the answer. From the diary, he learned that the woman was murdered by her jealous husband, and her spirit was now trapped in the hotel, unable to find peace. Jack realized he had to help her spirit find peace to break the curse. I have to help her. It's the only way to end this. He returned to his room and waited for the next call. When the phone rang, he picked up the receiver and promised to help the woman. At that moment, he was transported back in time again, but this time he was prepared to confront the ghosts and free them. "I'm here to help you. We will end this together." Jack found the room where the murder took place and read aloud the words from the diary to soothe the woman's spirit. Suddenly, the ghosts around him began to disappear, and the hotel gradually returned to its modern state. "Now you're free. Rest in peace." The next morning, Jack woke up in his room, and the phone no longer rang. He left the hotel, feeling a sense of accomplishment. The hotel became an ordinary place again, and no one ever heard strange calls again. I did it. It's finally over. Jack drove away, promising himself never to stay in old hotels again, and his story became known among locals, warning others to avoid eternal rest. Never again. Never again.